Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Ember. Oh, Ember.
Miss Ember.
Oh, great, Ember. Tell me what I'm doing.
Hey, Ember. How you doing?
Appreciate you, Ember.
Love Ember. She's great.
We will be yelling at Ember.
Bottom of the barrel Ember bullshit.
Oh my God, Ember. Ember. Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
We love you, Ember.
You rock at that, Ember.
We're neighbors, Ember.
Ember is the queen.
What's up, Ember?
I see you, Ember.
I only have eyes for Ember.
But hey, Ember is hot.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I think it's Friday. It's probably Friday. I am joined, as is often the case, by the wonderful, the incomparable, the probably a mermaid, Lil of all trades, who is also, among other things, a World War II era historian and lots of other things. Holy shit, she does so much. Hence the Lil of all trades thing. And
Low of all trades,
perfect.
master of few.
Perfect. I'm not honestly, folks, I've had a rough morning. Well, I've had some really, it's been a weird morning. I had a rough start. I had some medical issues and as you know, that happens to me sometimes. And I also had some really something really nice happen too. So it's there's pluses and minuses. The minuses are pretty harsh, but the pluses are pretty amazing. So it's good morning.
Good morning.
Ember's being cagey. What could possibly be afoot?
I do not know.
I'm mostly behaving this way so that the person involved can just giggle to herself and and enjoy the moment.
It reminded me yesterday on Politicality. Joe just straight up said, "Oh, by the way, Ambush Apostate Seth, that's her boyfriend," because he popped in the chat. And he's like, "Wait a second, you didn't mind if I said that?" And I'm just like,
right.
If I did, I know.
And then ask for permission. Yes, that's the best way to do things.
To be fair, he's been giving me shit about it for like 2 weeks now, and he makes a point to say something every single show about it. So I've been making shorts out of it. Those shorts are actually doing really well. So
cool. Now we're just here being giddy, silly. You know what? Words are hard. Hey, I've been up to other things too. Behold the queer flag. I'm so for those of you who may be new, one of the things I do is I make space pride flags. I make pride flags out of space images and things. Like we've got on this one, technically, the sun is on here twice because we've got the annular eclipse in the background, but also that top lighter blue, the light blue, because there's whatever. It's a good word for it. It's light blue. It's also one of the spectral images of the sun. You know, we've got that observatory that watches the sun in a bunch of different wavelengths. This is the light blue. You know what? Y'all get it. You understand. The sun's on here twice, but in one of them, the moon is in the way, so it's fine. I'm flustered. Leave me alone. Anyway, the flag and the sticker, both versions, full size flag, 5 big fucking sticker. Now we have the whole array of letters. We've got the lesbian flag, the classic gay flag. I plan on making like the more updated gay flag. It's fine. But we've got the bi flag, the trans flag, and also asexual flag. Or not, Jesus Christ, NB flag. I'm so flustered today. There's a lot of flags all on the website, linked in the description, and also probably showing in the store bar underneath this video. Probably, I don't know, but the queer flag is the new one. The official announcement is going out later today, unless you're on my Blue Sky, in which case I couldn't figure out how to schedule it, so it's just already posted. But it is live on the store. So tell your friends, and also, you know, discount codes are a thing. Lil has one, so watch Lil's content, get the discount code, and save on some stickers. Oh goodness! All right.
I realize it's always a good day whenever I start one of these, and Kip is in my lap. She's sleeping in my lap right now. Well, you can't really see her, but
she's. Do you have legs? Have you been misleading all?
They're Schrodinger legs. They only turn into a tail when I get near water. So taking a shower is a little odd.
I can see how that might be awkward. Yes. Oh my goodness! All right, today. People come here for the tangents and stay for the science. So if you're new, please take a second to subscribe. We do shenanigans in the beginning, and then we really start to dig into the topic. It's one of the benefits of doing lives, and you know, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy. Today we're talking about one of the most badass women since Harriet fucking Tubman.
Yes,
Irina Sendler, which I probably mispronounced because I can't speak Polish, but she's holy shit. You know what? Do you want to give a summary?
Yes, she was, if I remember correctly, she was a nurse, right? She was a nurse or a doctor, one of the two. She was a medical professional, and I think a social worker. And basically, she was in the Warsaw Ghetto. But basically, what she did is she smuggled kids out of the Warsaw Ghetto into safety, and she smuggled a lot of kids out. And it's just like it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, it was it was like 25. It was over 2,500 kids. She would put them in her medical bag and take them out, or medical bag, or like toolbox, or what. I cannot for the life of me remember what her role was, but yeah, she would smuggle them out and get them out of the Warsaw Ghetto.
A whole bunch of different ways. She would find hidey holes to put them in, and she would come up with creative ways to get them out, so the guards wouldn't like detect one way, and then it was all over. Right?
Yeah.
Like she'd use sewer tunnels. She'd use, if a child fit in her bag and could stay quiet, she'd do that. If a child couldn't, she'd like get a hospital gurney and have someone like be sick, like fake being ill, or maybe be ill for real, whatever, and like have a child hide on the underside of the gurney so that when the SS officers looked, there was an actual sick person on the gurney, and okay, on you go to the hospital, that sort of thing. She'd hide them in churches. If they could learn a couple Catholic prayers, then they could pass for Catholic kids and get out, you know? Anything she could think. She had so many ways, and almost every single day she went into the ghetto, she came out with a child. And that's another sign of brilliance, right? Like, she's trying so hard, she feels that emotional, moral duty to try to protect the children from what's going on. Remember, there's like 500,000 people in this tiny little ghetto, possibly more. They're dying, even without there being a concentration camp. They did proper death camp, Blinka.
There
later on.
And the thing is like, and I have to explain this to people, is like, that was part of it. They did not give them anywhere near enough food. And they were slave labor at the time too. And so they were literally trying to work people to death, and they did that very, very well, unfortunately. So yeah, there were people dropping dead all the time. And even the kids, they put the kids to work too, and the kids got next to nothing to eat as well. So, I mean, it was all everyone there that was in that situation. But yeah, she managed to get so many kids out. I did a paper on her like 17 years ago. I should have dug up that paper.
I think my brain is misfiring like crazy. I think one of the reasons that I wanted to suggest that she's so brilliant is because she only took one kid at a time. And it makes it take longer, absolutely. But also, there's a very high chance you get caught. She eventually did get caught. And that way you don't lose 12 kids to the Nazis. You only lose one, which is a very cynical way to look at things, but a very necessary way to look at things.
Yeah.
When they're killing kids, like now. Seriously glares into the lens. Fucking hell. She did eventually get caught. And we'll get into the proper biography. But for she got caught, she was sentenced to death. The group she was working with sprung her. She hid for the rest of the war, and then afterwards she survived a Nazi death sentence. After the war, she did her best to reunite the children with their parents. Unfortunately, many didn't have parents anymore because, again, Treblinka and
Auschwitz were a thing. The statistic is, if you were a Jew in Poland in 1939, you had a 90% chance that you were going to die. If you were still there when the war started. And it's, it bothers me a lot that people don't know about Treblinka. They know about Auschwitz. Everybody knows about Auschwitz. They don't know about Treblinka, and Treblinka killed almost as many people. And like the memorial at Treblinka is absolutely devastating when you realize what it all is. There's a like big stone memorial in the middle, and it's surrounded by all these stones with names on it. You would think that those are like family names or individual names. No, those are names of entire communities that were wiped out. They killed almost 1 million people. It was insane.
It's fucking, it's unreal. But also,
this is why people in my field, why we honestly think like the quote unquote official number of people killed in the Holocaust is 11 million. We actually think it's quite a bit higher. I tend to land around 17 million, give or take. But it ranges from 13 to 20 million on how many people were actually killed. It was way higher than the official numbers for sure.
It's also worth noting, because it's sort of a shocking statistic, that more Jewish people were killed between the German Holocaust and Stalin's Holocaust, they killed more
Mhm.
Jews than there are Jews alive today.
Yes. Yeah. There are more from if you've ever seen Schindler's List, that's based on true story. There are more Schindler Jews alive today than there are in Poland. Like Jews and their descendants that are alive today than there are Jews in Poland now.
Right. And Irina, she's been called by historians as the woman Schindler, because always the woman is only understood in reference to the man, but like
Yeah.
in many ways some of the shit she did was way more badass. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, also she was a nurse, she was a medical professional. In addition to smuggling children, she was caring for the people in the damn ghetto.
Yeah.
And it's also Kenzie points out that because we're Americans and can't pronounce things, we've been mispronouncing. The name of the city is Warsaw because the W's are actually V's.
I always forget that.
Yeah, I'm you know, we're Americans who can't pronounce things. we do our best here, but I'll try to keep that in mind going forward. All right, so I've got a an official biography. Well, sort of official. It was published anyway, so someone published it. It's titled Irina Sendler, the amazing woman who saved 2,500 children from the Nazis. And it's just a brief summary. It doesn't go into a ton of detail, but I also have a video from a couple of historians who are going to dig in a little bit more following that. So it should be pretty neat. So to begin, Irina Sendler was born on the 15th of February in 1910 in Warsaw, Poland. She was the only child of two very strong-minded, justice-seeking parents who taught her a great deal about compassion and determination. Now, a quick point here. In pre-World War II Poland, there was a lot of prejudice and bigotry against Jewish people already, even without Nazi influence. And so there, I mean, okay, so we'll get into it in a second, but like even before the Nazis, there were segregation attempts, like ghetto benches, for example, in the colleges and universities. I forget if it was 1935 or 1937. Maybe it depends on which college. But in order to keep the non-Jews from feeling uncomfortable by having to share their spaces with Jewish people, they separated them and they made the Jews sit on Jewish only benches. Does this sound at all familiar to anyone? Is this ringing any bells? We're taking people and segregating them because the people who aren't them were saying they felt uncomfortable. They didn't, they felt threatened by their mere presence.
Yeah. Until I think it was 1951, if I remember correctly, there was a sign in a Washington D.C. park that said no dogs and no Jews allowed. 1951, after all this. 1951. Like it's still there and it still runs really deep.
Yeah, as I was talking about last night, I was on AJ's show, Critical Call. We were talking about how all of this stuff, you know, the transphobia, for instance. If you scratch a transphobe, you're gonna find an anti-Semite. You know, like for example, Helen Joyce published in her book on page 197, it's the Jews behind this. It's not even hidden. It's just hatred. And Americans especially seem to have this weird idea that you can think that it's wrong to exterminate a group of people, but it's still okay to hate them because they're a group of people. Like you could, it's a little anti-Semitism is fine as long as you're not going full on death camps.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually work. I realize people are afraid of change and they're afraid of people who are different and so on and so forth. But if you are okay with hating a group of people because
Yeah.
they are that group of people, you're holding space for the people who do want to open the death camps.
Yeah. And also another thing to point out that I've had this conversation with mostly Americans is they'll be like, oh, well, what's going on over in this area is not a genocide, blah, 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 blah. And they automatically compare it to the Holocaust. The thing to understand is the Holocaust is quite frankly the most successful one, and it's one of the most well documented. That is why it's studied the way it's studied, is because we have learned what the signs are that build up to this so we can warn against it. Like that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like me, for instance, got into this, is like, I want to stop this from happening. If you know it's coming, you can raise the red flags. You can say, hey, there's a problem here. This is happening. But people will think that if it's not on the level of the Holocaust, you can't call it a genocide. That's crap.
Yeah, there's many steps to genocide.
Mhm.
Like, for example,
We're
taking
in the
away an
middle of
entire
it.
group of people's driver's licenses. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually kill them, but it makes continuing to live harder, or prohibiting
Yeah.
that whole group of people from receiving the medical care they need
Yeah.
because they're a member of that group of people, or extending that to make it so they just can't have any medical care because they're a member of that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you're not actively exterminating them, but you're
Yeah, you don't have
causing
to.
them to die prematurely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. That's a thing that's happening in the US right now too. While we,
Mm-hmm.
drop $30 million bombs on schools full of girls.
Yeah.
Free country. Yay.
Some of us are fighting for it, though.
I wonder if there's so much focus on the past
Mm-hmm.
because it can be a distraction from the horrors of the present.
Maybe, I mean, I don't see it that way, but that's probably because like I'm in this stuff constantly. What disturbs me is I see the parallels. I've seen the parallels since he came down this freaking golden escalator, and I have been warning people about this since then. I said, if you think that this is not where this is going to go, you are out of your minds. I have had a ton of people come to me this past year and said, yeah, you were right. I should have listened to you. You should have listened to me the first time, and this might not have happened. But yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things that it's like, it does aggravate me because people will look at the past and say, well, it wasn't as bad as that, so this can't be that. And it's like, no, that's not the way it works, guys. That's not the way this works. Yeah, exactly. And it's, I mean, and the thing is like, people don't realize that you don't have to have industrial grade murder for it to be a genocide. There's other ways that goes on too. It's just,
yeah, the entire point is to erase a people group or culture or whatever. You don't have to just unalive them directly.
Yeah.
Separating their children from them.
Yes.
Like the residential, I mean, the US has been doing this our entire fucking history. We'd take people from Africa and erase their culture, which is why most Africans in the US today have no idea which country their ancestors were even taken from, because it was erased.
Yeah.
We did it to the Native Americans with the residential schools and the forced assimilation programs. We've done it to every fucking, the closest any group has gotten to avoiding that kind of intentional erasure was the Chinese, because they just set up their own little cities. There's Chinatowns all over the country, and they refuse to let their culture be deleted.
Yeah. And I mean, and the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that the Holocaust was not actually like state policy for like quite a while. What the quote unquote state policy was we are going to make this the last generation. And then they're like, you know what? It's just easier to gas them all. So that's what they did. Like that's literally what happened. It became official state policy at the Wannsee conference. So
if you believe in eugenics and you believe that this is the last generation of this people, then the people will not go on. So the people existing now are from the, social utility. You have to be a productive member of society and contribute to the birth rate. Then you're useless. You're taking up space and using up resources. So for the public good, we have to just erase you from the planet.
Yeah. And one of the ways, and this is one thing that I say quite a bit, one of the ways that they did that, and they did that even before it was official policy, is like I said, they would barely feed them at all. Now, if you notice that the jobs that were really, really intense, they would feed those people more, but they would barely feed them at all, and they would literally work them to death. So, yeah, I mean, that was pretty much policy from the get-go.
And we're still about that.
Yep.
And so the parallels continue, and they will continue to continue through this whole thing. So the article goes on to say, today she is known for her tireless work in obtaining the freedom of 2,500 children from the Warsaw ghetto. I'll get the pronunciation eventually. The ghetto during the Second World War. Her passion for equality began early within her life. While at university, she was one of the first people to strongly and vocally oppose the ghetto bench system that we talked about a moment ago. And she believed that everyone was equal and should be given the same opportunities, taught and treated respectfully, which was fucking revolutionary at the time and apparently is again now. Her ideals got her suspended from university, where the progressives and the liberal brainwashing happened. She was saying all humans deserve human rights was too radical, and she got booted from her university. Irina eventually found a way to continue her studies and assisted her in establishing her title of social worker, becoming a nurse. Like at the time we didn't have, and also it was Poland, but like this system of like RNs and LPNs and so forth, that wasn't, if you were a nurse, you were trained in nursing and that was it,
Yeah.
So by the age of 29, she was working for the welfare department for the municipality. And welfare, did I say warfare? Jesus Christ. My brain is misfiring like crazy today, folks. I'm in a lot of pain, and also distracting things happened, but nice distracting things. A role that would later assist, fucking hell. I need to stop trying to read things. A role that would later assist in helping children to escape the horror of the ghetto. When the Nazis invaded in 1939, Irina offered struggling Jewish people food and shelter. In 1940, the ghetto was erected, the structure, which was only the size of New York City's Central Park and housed 450,000 Jews. Disease, starvation, and illness were rife, with a death toll within the ghetto that grew quickly. Irina Sendler made every effort possible to rescue as many children as she could during this time. She and her underground helpers made over 3,000 false documents to help Jewish families leave the ghetto. She was coined the leader of the Children's Division of Zagoda, that being the Polish underground group that assisted Jewish people. Like specifically, Zagoda was not to undermine the Nazis, but to help the Jewish people, because there's multiple things going on at once. She entered the ghetto day after day after day for 18 months, and each time she would leave with a rescued child. She would then take the child to a friend's house for initial hiding and food, and would then later safely transport the child to a family who would look after them for the remainder of the war. So we're not trying to get them out of the country, we're trying to get them somewhere where they will be left the fuck alone. So they can live out the war. Sendler used several imaginative ways to sneak children out of the ghetto, which included ambulances. A child or children could be hidden by lying beneath a stretcher. The courthouse in the church. The courthouse is still standing today and is one of the main smuggling routes that was used to help get children to a safe place. The church was effective for children who were able to learn a handful of Catholic prayers. As you may know, Poland is majority Catholic, or at least was at the time. They probably still are, but details. And then the children could pass for Catholic and be released. A trolley, Irina would hide the child in a suitcase or a sack or something, and then wheel the child out. The sewer pipes, other hidden underground passages, like all kinds, every sneaky. She didn't even have to be like particularly cloak and dagger about it. Like, just look for the opportunities that are already right there, you know? This went on until Sendler was sadly arrested and sentenced to death on October 20th, 1943, after her address had been revealed by an informer, stares meaningfully into camera. During the length of her imprisonment, she was beaten, tortured, and relentlessly questioned, but she did not once falter and reveal the names or addresses of any of the children she saved or any of the other members of the underground who helped her. When she had lost almost all hope of being spared her life, the members of Zagoda paid off the executioner and sprung her. Because in a corrupt fascist system, everyone is bribable.
Very much so.
For the rest of the war, she was forced to change her name and remain in hiding. But this doesn't mean that she stopped her work. When the war was over, she began to look for the children that she saved and for their parents to reunite them. Sadly, as we mentioned before, almost all the parents had died in Treblinka. Sendler was an incredibly strong and driven woman who would stop at nothing to help the community that surrounded her. She saw injustice and did not think twice about doing all that she could to right such a deep wrong. She had the courage to smuggle. This is dramatic and I'm fucking up the words. Damn it, Ember. She had the courage to smuggle terror-stricken children past the heavily armed, commonly inhumane guards, risking her life day after day. So she's been recognized twice by Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center, and was given the Merit of the Righteous Gentile in 1965. She, despite receiving a death sentence from the Nazis, passed away in Warsaw in 2008 at the age of 98 years old.
Yeah.
You can fight. You can win, or at least survive and help other people survive.
I've had a lot of people ask me how I can be in this field because of all the horrors and stuff. But it's stories like this that make it worth it, because yes, you get the absolute worst of humanity, but you also get the absolute best too. I mean, there's stories like this all over the place of people doing whatever they can to help. And it's amazing. So.
Some people do, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
It's a shame that we have to squander people with so much courage and potential and you know, endurance, the fortitude, the resilience on undoing the hateful work of murderous assholes that somehow keep getting into power instead of, you know, letting them go end a war or something, you know?
Yeah. And I mean,
like, what could she have done if she didn't have to do that?
Yeah. And I mean, also the other thing is too, keep in mind, like a lot of these stories, a lot of them did not come out until years later. So it's like all this stuff was going on and all these people were trying to save as many people as they could, but we didn't hear about it until years later. That kind of stuff is going on now too. We just don't hear about it right now, but it's happening.
Yeah. And it drives me nuts. Like in second grade, little child Ember, second grade, the teacher's explaining segregation. Black people have to use black bathrooms and black water fountains and they're not equal. They're not even close to separate but equal. No, bestie. Sometimes you would end up with, first of all, 4 bathrooms is fucking ridiculous, but also you'd end up with roughly equal bathrooms sometimes. But sometimes you'd end up with white ladies' room, white men's room, colored over there, and you follow the arrows and it leads to a bush of poison ivy. That's your bathroom. Segregation. So the kids in my class were like, how did the people of the time just go along with that? Why didn't they fight back? How did they not realize how obviously wrong that is? And I pointed out, we still segregate today. We do it based on sex instead of color, but we still do it. And they're like, oh, no, that's different. That's, just the way things are. Well, there you go. That's why they did it back then, because that's just the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're doing it again.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to switch us over to our video. We have video content today because this is actually, as with so many really, really important topics, the internet is swamped with 10 to 50-second videos of people who just want to click and then move on,
My former boss worked on this video.
Oh, hell yeah. That's fucking, yeah. This is from the actual United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, which is not to be confused with the United States Holocaust Museum or the Holocaust Memorial Museum. There's a bunch of these, which is good. They need to be in every damn city. But I digress.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. Dallas has one.
Is. All right. So as per usual, if you've got something to say, just speak up, and I'll pause the damn thing. I expect you're going to have more to say than usual because this is right in the middle of your field.
Oh yeah.
I remember looking into her eyes, thinking, what have these eyes seen? What has this woman experienced? And thinking she's one of the strongest, most influential women in my life.
We just heard from an American woman whose life was forever changed by Irena Sendler, a courageous rescuer during the Holocaust. Good afternoon. I'm museum historian Edna Friedberg, and today we'll get to know Irena and what she did to save lives in German-occupied Poland during the Holocaust. It's a pleasure to welcome my colleague and friend, museum historian Eva van Puget, who will help us understand the dangers and obstacles that Irena faced to assist Jews during World War II and to help rescue innocent Jewish children who were imprisoned in the Warsaw Ghetto. Thank you for joining us today, Eva.
So that's a nice short introduction, but also I like this style of introduction because it doesn't just explain who the person is and where you can find more of their work, which, it's fair enough to do that. But why are they here? What are they about to speak on?
Exactly.
It framing of the thing you're trying to do.
Thanks, Edna, for having me today.
We're so glad that you're here. And viewers, please send your questions to Eva and we'll answer as many as possible during the course of the program. So tell us a little bit about Irena Sendler.
Now, what she means by that is this video was, I don't know if it was premiered or live streamed, but when I looked it up, there was a live chat replay. If this was live streamed, excellent production.
Who she was before World War II.
So Irena, like most people in Poland, came from a Catholic background, but she grew up in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood in a town outside of Warsaw and had many Jewish friends, not only growing up, but also later in life. Her father, whose name was Stanisław Krzyżanowski, was a doctor, and he treated poor Jewish and peasant families, often free of charge. He taught Irena a very important lesson in her life. The lesson was that if you see a person drowning, you should give them a hand. And this was a lesson
this.
Yeah.
I don't know why this isn't common sense, as they say, but to tangent, but it's a relevant tangent. As many of you know, I do debate reviews with my friend Mark Reed every, my Saturday. Mark's in the future because he's in Australia. The other day we were doing a debate review, and after the show, he wanted to show me a quick video of people in Australia, how they do things. And it was this video of a person who was boarding a train and slipped between the gap, mind the gap, slipped into the gap, leg got stuck between the train and the platform. And people spent a couple minutes trying to pull the person out of the gap, and it wasn't working because the thigh got like wedged. And so one of the people just turned to the crowd and said, if you can, help move this train. And the whole fucking crowd just surged forward and shoved the train, and they pulled the person out. And it blew me away because that would never happen in the United States. People would be like, you're holding up my commute, cut his leg off, It just, there are people who will try to help. Seeing a few people rush to try to render assistance, that's expected. But seeing a crowd just do what they can to help a stranger, that doesn't happen here. Not ever. Are we really civilized in the US? I kind of wonder.
Some of us are.
This is what it means to be not just a humanist, but a human. Is if someone is drowning, fucking help them. A thing that I meant to bring up, but we never got the chance because we didn't have anyone willing to engage us in conversation, was recently in the news. A trans man made the news because he jumped into a freezing river to save a baby. Well, it was Lake Michigan, but whatever, freezing water to save a baby. And people made a big deal out of it and tried to be transphobic about it. And they're like, oh, it's because you're a trans man. It was your maternal instinct. Like, there were hundreds of other men and women there. Why didn't the men man up and do it? Why didn't the other women have a maternal instinct?
Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's no, this is what good people do. Holy shit.
Raced throughout her entire life, in fact. For example, in the 1930s, she actively protested against the segregation of Jewish students at Warsaw University. And then after, she became...
Once again, there was active segregation and discrimination before the Nazis even showed up. Dr. Kip is here to tell us not about a book this time, but the fact he's doing a drama-free stream today. I'll believe it when I see it. No,
I could watch
streams are usually drama-free. They're mostly focused on the facts and things.
His streams are awesome, by the way. Go check them out.
Occasionally, and I've been given to understand, there are treats for Dagan.
Yes, there are, and Dagan is a cutie. I like Dagan.
Now, if you don't know about Dr. Kip, good news. We have an advertisement.
Meet Kip, named after a biblical scholar, holds 0 degrees, yet remains deeply authoritative. At Kip Academy, she teaches advanced disciplines like ethical trait distribution, comparative couch theology, and vigorous face licking. Questioning authority is encouraged. Not all treats are created equal. Each snack undergoes rigorous evaluation using the sniff, lick, and stare methodology. Some are rejected, some are accepted, some are declared non-canonical. Ask Kip about theology, ask Kip about life, ask Kip if you should go outside. She will not answer, but she will judge you. Kip, named for a scholar, correct about vibes.
Now, of course, that is, the dog-shaped Dr. Kip. Seen here, being a pain.
But it's always a good day when she like plops down right here. She doesn't do it that often, but when she does. Yeah, Stacking better go to streets.
That's right. This Dr. Kip is human shaped and does live streams, but as I've been told under good authority, does have degrees, but has written no books. Find out if the rumor is true at 2 p.m. Pacific time, apparently. Do your own research, folks.
I would love to watch it, but I am filming something at that time, so.
See, 2 p.m. Pacific would be 5 p.m. Eastern.
So
I don't know. We'll see. The day is chaotic and things, but you know. Miranda says, I feel like Kip will indeed answer if you ask her about going outside.
No, she did not. Okay. No.
It was a reasonable conjecture. A lot of dogs are very responsive. So, you know. All right. Now let's get back into the unfortunate historical events. However, for good reason. Because it's about the badass woman, not how bad things were.
A social worker in Warsaw. She specifically helped poor pregnant women and single mothers. She counseled them. And in this role, she met a lot of people and she built a very strong professional and personal network. She worked tirelessly across lines of class, religion, and ethnicity.
So really a woman who dedicated herself to supporting people who were on the margins of society, neglected or even persecuted. But of course, life changed dramatically, literally overnight in Poland after Germany invaded on September 1st, 1939, sparking World War II. Yet Irena stayed consistent and continued to care for impoverished people in Warsaw. Give us a sense.
Weird how, you know, principles and things work. Like when you say you believe in something and then you're challenged, you could either like back the fuck down and start licking some boots, or you could hold to your principles, even if you end up, you know, suffering for it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Sense of what she did to take care of Polish Jews who were in immediate danger.
So soon after Germany occupied Poland, German authorities rationed the food supplies, and they further reduced these food rations, as well as suspended all public social services for Jews. What Irena did was she registered Jewish families under non-Jewish names so that they could continue to receive support and assistance. She also provided these people with medical care and food by tapping into her networks of doctors or soup kitchens or other groups with whom she worked.
This was not just kindness, it was also extremely dangerous for her personally, because Irena was defying German edicts against helping Jews. And the stakes in this ramped up a year later after the Jews in Warsaw were forced to live in an area called the Warsaw Ghetto. Irena again leveraged her connections, the networks, the relationships that you mentioned earlier. But please tell us what conditions were like in this urban prison zone of the ghetto.
So in October of 1940, German officials forced Jews in and around Warsaw to move into a very small area of the city of Warsaw, and they called this the Warsaw Ghetto.
So once again, that area about the size of New York City Central Park. Now, you can actually have a community in Central Park. To throw a little random American history in here, there was a community of freed slaves, born free people, and other outcasts who set up their own community in what today is Central Park, because they weren't allowed in New York City proper, which at the time only went about as far north as Fifth Avenue. It was called Seneca Village, and they bulldozed it because the black people were living too well, and they built Central Park there instead. That's, if you ever wonder why there's that big fucking hole in New York City where they built the park, it wasn't just because they wanted green space. There were, if you look at the old plans and whatnot, there were streets going right across. It was just part of the normal grid in the city's plan. They turned it into a park because that was the excuse to demolish Seneca Village.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Later, they sealed this ghetto, effectively locking everyone inside. They had guards monitoring the entrances and exits, and it was really very difficult to leave the ghetto, let alone escape the situation. The Germans erected a 10-foot tall wall with barbed wire. At its peak, there were about 450,000 people crowded into the ghetto, with multiple families living in single apartments. The ghetto was...
Now, to be clear, this is not just a sectioned off part of the city where they, for some reason, felt the need to have a 10-foot wall with barbed wire. It was a prison. They made part of the city into a prison. There were armed guards with fucking machine guns outside the entrances with instructions to gun down any Jew who tries to escape.
Yeah.
This is not just detainment.
And just to point out for anybody who is unfamiliar with this history, because this is stuff that is not taught in U.S. schools, there were ghettos in pretty much any decent sized city or town. Like, they were all over the place. There was one Theresienstadt that was basically held up as the quote unquote ideal one that the Nazis used for propaganda. To say, like, look, we're treating everybody like fairly and stuff. So, which of course they weren't, but those were always, that specific ghetto was always made to look nice and everybody was well taken care of. They were just in an open air prison.
And we still, we're doing that now.
Yeah.
Like just this morning, we were getting, some more static about the various, people don't even realize the United States has concentration camps. We're worried about like alligator Auschwitz and shit. And these warehouses they're buying to put incinerators into and whatnot. They already have them. There are hundreds of thousands of people already in concentration camps, and they're dying every day from lack of medical care, from lack of access to food. There was a dude this morning who died from a fucking infected tooth.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing in the world to fix. You have a dentist, anybody can do it, but like dentists are good at it. They take their pliers and they go yank and it's done.
Yeah.
Take some antibiotics
give you some antibiotics and you're done.
Nope, they let him die. And let me tell you, death by tooth infection is one of the most excruciating ways to go.
Yeah.
It's filthy, it was miserable, and it was dangerous. Between 1940 and July of 1942, over 90,000 people died there from starvation, disease, and violence. German guards would humiliate, beat, and torture ghetto residents really indiscriminately. And they did this to these people just because they were Jewish.
Just because they could, like is happening right now to brown-skinned people, to immigrants, to people who speak Spanish, to people who are trans.
Yeah.
We're not all being hated on equally, but the origin of the hate is the same. It's not they're different and therefore subhuman. It's I'm me and fuck everyone else.
Yeah.
So really hellish, brutal landscape. And that is where Irena is now going to be working. I'm going to pause for a moment, though, to welcome viewers who are joining us, in fact, from Warsaw, Poland.
Okay, so that was a live stream a couple of years ago. That's really neat. And it's great that they were taking live questions. If you have questions for Lil, feel free. I mean, you already know I've been bringing up chats and things as we go along, but like
so just FYI, the Warsaw Ghetto is not my expertise. My expertise is actually in Buchenwald, which was the largest labor camp in Germany. But obviously, like, I know this stuff. It's kind of part of the getting a history degree and all this. But I always caveat that because I might not necessarily remember everything. So
I know the feeling. Oh my goodness. When have you noticed this when you've got like myriad areas of special interest that sometimes when you're like dialed in on one thing and somebody hits you from left field with something else, it's another subject you're very, very strong in, but because you're dialed in over here, your brain is just like, I can't access that data right now, you know? It's frustrating.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Also Nova Scotia, Canada, and from Guatemala, and also our viewers here in the U.S. Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are, to you in Orange County, California, Lebanon, Tennessee, the Poconos in Pennsylvania, and other cities around the country. We are so.
I appreciate the recognition of the audience. This is a thing that I could do better at, but I think pointing out every single location people are viewing from may be a little excessive.
Glad that you are with us. So Eva, the Germans established ghettos in Warsaw and other places to isolate Jewish people from the rest of the population. And in many ghettos, guards forced Jews of all ages inside, but also were preventing other people from entering. Yet Irena found a way.
Right. You needed to have like legitimate business, a reason to go in. You couldn't just be visiting friends or even family. Hell, if you said family members, they'd throw you in and you couldn't leave.
Yeah.
We saw something along these lines. There was an Amazon show a few years ago that started to take off. Carnival Row, I think it was called. I'm so bad with pop culture stuff, but the story, as I understand it, goes: the humans got sick of the magical folk, the elves and the fairies and so forth, and so locked them all in a ghetto because they wanted a world without magic. And somebody tried to get in at one point and was like, "Oh no, I'm not like bringing in contraband. I want to visit my cousin." And they went, "Oh, cousin, so you're half elvish?" And just threw him into like, you can visit, but you can't leave now. Something like that. I'm probably badly misremembering. Andrew says, I watched that series. Yay. And the thing of it is, I don't think they continued it because it made people uncomfortable, which is kind of the point. But also the criticism, one of the criticisms was that in what universe would people want to get rid of the magical beings like the fairies and the elves and things?
No kidding.
But here's the thing. When you hate someone, it's often because there's something about them that is different from you and it makes you feel inferior. The humans in the story felt inferior. And therefore, the magical people were evil.
Way around this, a way to get to the people who are in such desperate straits. How was she able to come and go with regularity from the ghetto in Warsaw?
So German authorities were afraid of being exposed to deadly diseases like typhus and tuberculosis. These were diseases that were actually caused by the ghettos that they themselves had created. What the German authorities did is they issued passes to Polish city employees and other workers to monitor the health conditions in the Warsaw ghetto. Irena obtained this.
There's on that note, there's actually a story of there is a Polish doctor who realized that the Nazis were about to come and take everybody from their village, which had like a whole bunch of it was mostly Jewish. They basically faked a typhus epidemic in the village, and like the Nazis never came by there because they were so afraid of it.
I wonder if we could do something similar today. Like,
it's possible.
I don't know, because like the Nazis, like many fascists, super fucking corrupt, and so it doesn't matter if they have orders to keep an eye on this group of people. If it's not in their own personal interests, they're just not going to do it. It's kind of like that with our enforcers today. They're like, there's rules, but if they don't feel like following them, they're just not gonna. And there's never any consequences. So Fuck. What have I done?
Pass for herself and for a friend through her work, through the welfare office where she worked as a social worker.
And what was the purpose of that? Once she was in the ghetto, what did Irena do?
So Irena's purpose specifically was to continue secretly delivering assistance and aid, food, medicine, clothing, even money to the Jewish residents. But this was all under the guise of helping control and monitor these epidemics. And what Irena did over time was enlist not only the help of trustworthy colleagues, but also extended her network to include tramway drivers, electricians, plumbers, or other people who had passes to enter and exit the ghetto.
Right, because that's another big thing the fascists are all about. They'll happily beat a minority person, but if it comes to, providing necessary services for whatever fucking reason, they'll make the locals do it because they don't want to be near them or dirty their hands or whatever. And that gives rise to form these kinds of networks because, if it's never the Nazis, then you and the carpenter and the electrician can be like, hey, that tunnel over there is unguarded, In
the ghetto, she connected with Jewish welfare activists who helped identify children and families in need. She used this vast network to smuggle children out and secure hiding places for them in orphanages or with foster families. And in some cases, Irena herself would pick up a child personally. And she recalled on several occasions really the traumatic parting between parent and child that she witnessed firsthand.
I'm really struck as you're talking about the relationships that she called on, the creativity, the ingenuity, that Irena was incredibly savvy. She's what my family would have called an operator. She's someone who before the war had mastered Polish bureaucracy and knew how to work it in order to help people she knew. And afterwards, she quickly learned how to navigate the new German bureaucracy. In particular, we're hearing from people online that Irena exemplifies the amazing work of social workers and how important.
That's another really big point. Like, we're talking about her specifically, partly for the historical relevance, but also partly because it's Women's History Month. But also a big part of her story is this is why social workers, like, people keep saying, why are there so many nosy busybodies who just want to get in there and like make people's lives more difficult? This is why. Because sometimes they can only help in small ways. And sometimes because they're human, their help might be a little misguided. But when there needs to be some kind of connection between a suffering people, whether it's a single child or a population of 500,000, there needs to be some kind of connection between them and the outside world with an aggressive, powerful force standing in the way, whether it's the Nazis or an abusive parent. The social worker builds that damn bridge.
Yeah.
They are, how critical they are. A viewer named Tatum is letting us know that she actually learned about Irena Sendler when she was going to school to be a social worker. So what an incredible model for the power and impact of this profession. But to remind ourselves of this context, let's not forget that Irena was risking her life, again, doing this work. Anyone caught aiding...
Literally, that's not just hyperbolic. Like we said in the beginning, reading her brief biography, she actually did get caught and sentenced to be executed. She wasn't just metaphorically risking her life. She was literally caught and sentenced to die.
And the thing is like, she absolutely knew that. That was just like, that's what the Nazis did when they caught you. So
Jews in German-occupied Poland could face severe punishment, even death. Let's listen to Irena actually in her own voice, decades later, reflecting on the dangers that she and those who she helped were facing.
Z drugiej strony, kiedy myśmy chodzili do getta z koleżanką.
It looks like we're subs, not dubs. So the text translation reads, when my friend and I were going to the ghetto to pick up those children.
Zabierać te dzieci, to działy się dantejskie sceny, bo
There were hellish scenes.
te rodziny jednak matka chciała, a takich nie
A mother wanted her child to go, while the father did not. A grandmother wanted to hand over a child. The mama didn't.
chciał. Babcia chciała oddać dziecko, mamusia nie chciała. Pytano mnie, jaka jest gwarancja.
They asked for a guarantee. What kind of guarantee could I give them?
Jaką ja mogłam dać gwarancji? Ja nie mogłam dać nawet gwarancji, że jak przeprowadzę
I could not even guarantee that I would get past the sentry.
przez wachę. Więc ja idąc do rodziny żydowskiej,
So when I went to a Jewish family for a child, and this is an important side note, not to interrupt her speech, but like this is an important side note because people were afraid, people were suffering, people were dying. There was this fear and distrust of outsiders within the ghetto community. And so when people like Irina came and were like, give me your child, I'll bring them to safety, there were people within the group who were like, no, they're trafficking our children. This is just one more way to hurt us. They're taking our children away to die.
Mm-hmm.
And they had no way to know otherwise. That fear was rampant.
po dziecko, nie mogłam dać żadnych gwarancji, że
I could not guarantee that the child would live.
dziecko będzie żyło, prawda?
It's so wrenching listening to her. And of
Yeah.
course, understandable that within families, the adults who were responsible for a kid might not agree. That the mother and
Yeah.
father may have different ideas about whether to keep the kid with them.
And what's even worse is that a lot of them did not realize what was coming and did not realize what was in their future. And if they did, they would have sent their kids without a doubt. They had
Maybe. I don't know.
Based
I've known
on-
people.
Based on a lot of the interviews I've done, it's been about 65-35 that 35 were like, yeah, I knew where this was going. Or my parents knew where this was going. My grandparents knew where this was going. And then like 65%, like we just didn't think they'd stoop to that level.
That's one of the things. That's one of the holdups every time this kind of
Mhm.
fascism appears is people are like, well, surely it won't be like that. It won't be that bad here because there are
Mhm.
lines, there are limits, there are expectations. We're a civilized people. And it's that kind of doubt that specifically enables it to get that bad because no one
Yeah.
stops them early.
Yeah. And it's also important to remember that like we're looking at this with hindsight. We know what happened. We know the order of what happened. But like people at the time, they were just dealing with the information that's in front of them, which was absolutely not complete. They absolutely didn't know everything. So it's just, it's one of those things where you can see how people would think like, yeah, they might make our lives hell, but they're not necessarily going to stoop to this level. And then they're kind of surprised when it does. And yeah, it was one of those things that this is why there was so much misinformation because in World War II, World War I, there was a lot of false propaganda about the Germans and what they were doing. There was a lot of false propaganda all over the place, but that's why when rumors of the Holocaust reached like American shores and stuff among the public, a lot of people dismissed them as propaganda nonsense. Because it's just like, this is too out there. And it was even when I even got into Holocaust studies, it was like, okay, they did this to so many people. Like, how did they actually accomplish this? Because I don't understand how they could have done this and gotten away with it. And that's what got me into the study of all this to begin with, was just that, like, okay, I know that they did, and I know that this is history, but like, how? Because it seems that when you look at the numbers, it seems impossible, but it's not. It's not even close.
Yeah, and we see similar things
Mhm.
today. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
so many red hats when you present them the facts about the torture prisons in Middle America or the Central America and the detention centers in middle America and all the other stuff that's going on. They just go, fake news, Democrat propaganda.
Yeah.
People will believe any lie with sufficient motivation, either because they're afraid that it's true, like the Democrats are taking our children and drinking their blood, or because they want it to be true. It's fake news. Our leader is the savior, you know?
Yeah. Very, very much so.
And the grandparents.
Why does this keep happening?
Parents, so painful. Germans tightened access to the ghetto, though, further in 1942, and even with the type of pass, it became more unpredictable to enter and exit. But Eva, this didn't stop Irena, did it? How did she continue to do her rescue and help?
No, she was determined. She continued to use her knowledge of the welfare system and her access to city resources, whatever was available at that time, to continue her secret activities. On occasion, she would falsely identify a home in the ghetto as being infected with typhus, for example. And the fear of contamination would keep German authorities at bay, at least long enough for her to provide aid or to identify a hiding place for a family. And members of the underground network with whom she was working, at this point, they're literally going below ground, using the sewer system of the city to get in and out of the ghetto.
Now, in this case, we talked a bit about the Underground Railroad last month for Black History Month and Harriet Tubman's story. In this case, their Underground Railroad did have some actual underground components to it, which is fascinating. But yeah, it was a similar thing. It was a whole network, like we talked about then with the slavery Underground Railroad. You'd have like a conductor who really knew a route between station to station, but they didn't take you the whole way. They'd take you to the next station, and then you would hide there and wait for the next guide to come and take you on. That was on purpose, because if you know one section really well, you know where the dangerous parts are, you know where the patrols are, and so on. If you try to do the whole thing, you're more likely to be captured. And also, you could expose the entire fucking network. But by keeping it segmented, like if one guide gets captured, you lose the two safe houses that they go between. But that's it. You know, that's the extent of the loss to the network.
Yeah.
A guide that covers the whole distance. Now, Harriet Tubman was a little bit different because she didn't use the same safe houses. She would take like her family members and she would bring them the whole fucking way to Canada. But that's a slightly different situation.
Yeah.
But similar thing here. Similar thing where Irena would take people out of the ghetto to their first hiding place where they would stay, possibly for days. And then the next guide would get them and bring them to a family or a church or another temporary safe space, or start them on a path to get the hell out of the country.
Yeah.
We've seen a few stories over recent years about people who were just forging passports for Jewish children, you know, without sleep for days and days and days to get these kids out of the country.
Yeah.
Before Treblinka opened, even without the, and this is a big problem with Americans, is they think that if you're not actually dying, there's no problem. Even without the death camp, the ghettos were killing a lot of people.
Yeah.
They said earlier in this video, 90,000 people died in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were barely feeding them, and they were working them until they just couldn't work. Until they just couldn't do it and drop dead. And they would usually shoot them. So it was just, yeah. I mean, they were the utter disregard for human life is kind of hard to wrap your head around. But
no, it isn't, because we're doing that today too.
Yeah, I mean, it is for me personally, for me to try to wrap my head around somebody who has that much disregard for human life. Like, I cannot comprehend how someone can come to that conclusion. Like, for me personally, in my own head, trying to figure out, like, how did they get there? I don't. I don't see how people get there. I know that they do, and I understand that they do, but it's like I can't see through
Well, I
my
think
own.
this is an important point to expound on, because while we can look at the man who shot Renee Good and say that was monstrous, that was completely out of line, that was absolutely unnecessary, he's a monster. Fine. But then we have, 30 to 50% of people in the United States going, oh, well, she deserved it. She wasn't following the rules.
Yeah.
She's
And
not
that's just
even in the minority group that they hate.
Yeah, and that's just
Now it's a
unbelievably
completely different
disgusting.
situation. We're making excuses for the disregard of human life. And that puts us squarely in middle century Germany territory.
Yeah, it does. And it's just it's so utter. The one thing that I bring up with people is, so I've seen some of the worst images of the Holocaust. I've seen some of the worst videos. I like stuff that you probably couldn't stick in a horror movie now. But the most disturbing pictures for me are the ones of like Nazis playing with their dogs. Because it's so easy to look at them and be like, oh, they're monsters. And just kind of dehumanize them that way. But no, there they are, happily playing with their dogs, just like I do every single day. And it is so unbelievably unnerving. Like, those are the ones that I have to pause on when I see those. Because I'm just like, we're not the same. But at the same time, we're both still human. So it's just... It's kind of trippy.
It is. It's creates big psychological issues, and I'm sure Maya could delve into it a bit more deeply than me. But we see someone dehumanizing others to the point they become dangerous. Like just like in the ghettos, they would shoot a Jew, and everyone would be like, they were a Jew, like they were breaking the rules. That's not good enough, though, right? Like you say, they were breaking the rules. We don't kill people for breaking the rules. Oh, but they were a Jew, so breaking the rules, the bar is low enough. But then you have Renee Good, who's very much not a brown person, but suddenly she was breaking the rules, is good enough to justify shooting her too. Now nobody's safe. So we see this problem. We see this as a danger. This cannot be allowed to stand. And we say these people are monsters. They're unconscionable. That we're making the same excuses to commit atrocities against them as they've made excuses to commit atrocities against everybody else. And they cannot be permitted to continue. But what we're doing by trying to erase their humanity is clearing our own conscience in advance for doing something equally monstrous. In protection of others, the motives are good, or at least better, but it's still monstrous.
Yeah, exactly. It's
sometimes, to be clear, sometimes it does take force to stop monsters. Sometimes it does. In World War II, it absolutely did.
Yeah.
But not always. And it doesn't mean we get to erase what we had to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the photos that I always show people is there's a really famous photo of Joseph Goebbels called Eyes of Hate. And he looks absolutely unhinged and psychotic, just glaring at the camera. But if you see the photo that was taken 20 seconds before that, he's laughing and joking around with the photographer. In that 20-second time span, he was told that the photographer was a Jew. And you see how quickly it changes. And it's just like, how? Like, my mind cannot comprehend how you can go from laughing and joking around to somebody to absolute, like, I want to destroy you in 20 seconds. Like, just because of something like that. Yeah, that's the before picture. And that's the one directly after that.
This is the one that's actually titled Eyes of Hate, but they both come up if you Google.
Yeah, and it's absolutely unhinged. Like that, the guy who's bending down, he had just told him that the photographer was a Jew. That's how fast that happened. It's just that, to me, that photo sums up how irrational that hatred was. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, I do have to wonder, like, if it's so complicated delving into our humanity and these conflicts in this way, but I do feel inclined, often, like, part of my critical thinking is to, like, try to view my own perspectives from a different perspective. And so I think about, like, if I were in a similar situation, I was in Joseph's place and I was having a great conversation. Like, maybe I'm at a wedding and the wedding photographer is joking and making me smile and whatnot and takes a couple great photos. And then somebody comes over and goes, this is J.K. Rowling's best friend. This is a major transphobe who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to kill people like you.
Yeah.
I might make the same face. Would I? I don't know. But would that person lose, like, most of their humanity in my eyes? Absolutely. You know?
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I also bring up because I used to teach my boss's class on this, is people would always say something like, well, I would have done this or I would have done that. And I sit there and say, you don't know what you would have done in that situation. You're not there and you're not close to that situation, because at the time we weren't. I was like, you're not close to that situation. You don't know what you would have done. You just don't. You don't know if you would have given in or not. Because, like, I mean, now we definitely have a better idea of who would and who wouldn't, but, like, at the time, and all this wasn't necessarily going on as severely as it is now, but, like, I mean, what do? Do you sacrifice this group of people to save your own family? Or, like, what do you do when you are faced with that immediate thing, when you have guys with guns in your face? And so people will be like, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. And I'm like, you don't know what you would have done. You don't know. You're not in that situation.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just you as you are now knowing what you know now.
Exactly.
It's like today, people are picking and choosing the information they want to accept as real based on what confirms what they already believe. And everything else they just dismissed as that's propaganda from the other side.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with the Germans. Is, people keep saying, how could the Germans have not known about the death camps? They did. They were told and chose to believe that it was made up propaganda from the Jew lovers.
Yeah. There's some controversy on if they knew the extent of it. To be fair, all the actual death camps, none of them were in Germany. They were all in Poland and elsewhere. So there were
absolutely in Germany.
Huh?
Wasn't Dachau
in Germany, but it wasn't one of the death camps. So there's 6 actual death camps, and there were some that were added, like, later. But, like, the ones where they were, like, just straight out exterminating people were all outside of Germany. They didn't want that on German land. So, Buchenwald was the largest concentration camp in Germany, but there was, like, 70,000 people died there. But the only reason that's the case is because it was primarily viewed as a labor camp. And so people would go there, they would stay. And there were also a lot of people who were held there who were not Jewish, who were not put on the trains. So.
Yeah, they were.
And Buchenwald operated until, I think it was 1960, 1961. It might have been 1965. I'm getting my dates all mixed up. But yeah, it was still operated. It was operated by the Allies, though, for Nazis.
It's a bit of an issue, and also it calls into question the people who fought the Nazis are often hailed as humans because they, great humans, heroes, and so forth, because they fought the Nazis, they overthrew the Third Reich, and they saved the Jewish population of Europe from total extinction. Only 90% got wiped out who didn't manage to escape, but some managed to escape, some were protected, some were. It's not great, but these are people who tried to help. But here's the thing. People say, okay, cool. They showed up to the camps They liberated the camps. They let the Jews out. They fed the underfed ones. They gave medicine to the injured and so forth. But then you point out that while they did help the Jews, they found the people with the pink triangles, and they found out what the pink triangle meant.
I was just about to mention that.
And then they slammed the door shut again.
Yeah.
And when you tell this to people, they go, "Oh, well, yes, but those were queers." So do you see how the average person can just become monstrous in exactly the same way? That group of people is different because I've decided their humanity is lesser. You just in the same conversation said you agree with the Nazis in principle and in direct application to a specific group, even if you disagree about a different group being qualifying for that kind of treatment. It can happen to everybody. And the only defense is education, empathy, and critical thinking. All three things that the United States is aggressively trying to suppress. Guess why?
The sewers had been used prior to 1942 to smuggle in food and other goods into the ghetto for its residents. But in 1942, it becomes a way of moving people.
It's really hard to imagine wading through dirty sewers, but that shows the level of desperation that people had. And I've heard of parents in the Warsaw Ghetto who were in such a panic to get their kids out of there that they would wrap their children up and even try to squeeze them through openings in the ghetto wall, or in a total act of blind faith, even throw them over this 10-foot high wall, hoping that someone on the other side would find and save the kid. It's just unbearable. But I want us to bring this down to the personal and get to know one family who entrusted their tiny baby to Irena. Tell us how Irena helped to smuggle little Elżbieta Kopel out of the Warsaw Ghetto in that terrible year of 1942.
So Elżbieta, as you said, was born in the ghetto. She was born to Henia Rochman and Josel Kopel. When she was about 5 or 6 months old, members of Irena's network lightly sedated the baby to keep her from crying and placed her in a wooden box with air holes in it. Her parents, maybe as a parting gesture, put a spoon in the box. They engraved the spoon with the baby's name on one side and her birth date on the other. Then the box was placed amongst bricks in the back of a truck. And Elżbieta was driven out of the ghetto through a checkpoint to the other side. The baby was brought to a midwife. This midwife's name was Stanisława Busold. And she...
I just want to pause for a sec and reflect on that part of the story. Like, these people, they drugged their baby and put her in a box and then put her in a load of bricks and sent her off to a checkpoint, not knowing how you can often bet on guards of that kind being as lazy as possible, going, yup, those are bricks, but you never know. Sometimes there's that one overachiever SS motherfucker who's like, unload every single brick. Let me see, you know? It's a risk, and you're banking on the laziness and incompetence of people who delight in cruelty. That's why they took that job. That's a risk. That's a lot of trust in people you don't even know, or you don't know where your baby's going, and you're giving her fucking. This is another echo of the Underground Railroad. You know, when Harriet Tubman and other conductors had someone with small children, they would advise them not to go until the child is older. Like, yes, slavery sucks. Yes, you might die, but the odds of getting caught with a small child are so high. Maybe it's better to wait. But if they can't, if they have to go, you drug the child so they don't cry out and get you all caught.
Yeah. Exactly.
The fact humans have to resort to that. If you find yourself living in a society where people have to drug their babies to get them away from you, your society's fucked.
Yeah. And if you think that's not happening today, you're out of your mind. Because, yeah, it is.
We need to scrub it and start over. And there's so many people who are like, oh, we can fix the system. We can't fix the system. We're an abusive boyfriend situation. You need to get out. You need to start over entirely. Because there is no fixing this. You can say we're going to put more guardrails in place, not remembering that this fucker spent the last 5 years dismantling guardrails to the greatest extent possible. You could say we're going to put more clauses into the documents, but here's the thing. This situation came to be under the existing documents. That's not to say there's nothing good and useful in the documents, but we need more than that. We need a way to enforce the limits.
Yeah.
But that's another talk for another time. I'm tangenting on that one. But good news. We have an emoji for that.
Tangents.
She was a member of Irena's circle, and she helped secretly pregnant Jewish women give birth in the ghetto or in hiding, and she was engaged in saving Jewish lives in Warsaw as well. Many years later, Elżbieta learned that soon after she was smuggled out of the ghetto, her mother would call on a landline to just hear her child's voice several times, as many times I suspect as she could.
And calling on the phone, this is to a baby who can't even talk. So this woman, this mom, just wants to hear a sign that her baby's alive. Any, cooing or crying or breathing must have been so reassuring, but also painful. When you're talking about Elżbieta as an infant being drugged so that she would be quiet in this box, it's not an uncommon thing. I'm sure you've heard about it. I have, of babies or young children being sedated to keep them quiet to avoid detection. This story and the kind of heightened emotions in it are resonating with viewers. A woman named Patricia writes, "What unselfish parents to give up their baby so she might live." What happened to these unselfish parents? What happened to Elżbieta's parents? Were they ever reunited with their tiny girl?
No, they were not. They never saw one another again, in fact. And when Elżbieta was smuggled out of the ghetto at a very key moment of the history. It was shortly before most of the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto were rounded up for deportation. Over just a few months in 1942, the Germans took about 265,000 people from the Warsaw Ghetto to the Treblinka killing center. Her father was one of the people rounded up for deportation, and when he refused to board the train to Treblinka, he was shot. He was murdered on the spot.
Refusal to follow orders.
Yeah.
Not even a crime, just not following directions. And once again, if you say, well, that's okay because they're doing it to Jews, or because they're doing it to brown people, or because they're doing it to LGBT people, or because they're doing it to a white woman who also didn't follow orders, you are internally justifying this kind of action by saying it's all right to kill people extrajudicially if X. And that X is so variable. It sounds like you're up to something.
Yes, I am. Where'd it go?
Aunt Jury asks, is killing center just what we call it today, or is that what they called it then as well? I dare say they didn't call it that then, because if that were the case, then the reason they would shoot people for not getting on the train is they'd say, listen, you can go to this place that we're saying is just a new home for you, but you know better, don't you? But you only suspect. But if you don't get on the train, you definitely die right now.
Yeah. The whole thing is that they were trying their damnedest to keep it a secret until like the very last moment to kind of prevent panic and stuff. I mean, keep in mind that most of the people were too weak to fight back at that point anyway, if they tried, but they were trying to keep it a secret as long as they possibly could. So this is the memorial at Treblinka. This thing is like in the very, very center, right? And then, let me find it here. This is the, you can see, it's kind of a crappy picture, but you can see that memorial in the background. All of those stones all have names on them. That's not families. Those are entire communities that were wiped out. Every single one of them. And it's 360 all the way around it. It's kind of incredible. Like, it's, yeah. That's probably one of the better, probably one of the best memorials I've seen so far. That really, it hits, and it hits hard.
And that's the point.
Yeah. And it needs to be made, and it needs to be made often. That we cannot let this kind of crap happen again. We can't let it happen.
And here we are on the eve of doing it again. But there is this. Back then, there were people like Irene who did all that they could, who risked their lives. And once again, she did get caught. She did get tortured. She did get sentenced to death. She cheated death because her network got her out. But if not for that, she would have paid with her life for trying to save children from this regime. And here we are doing it again. So what kind of person are you going to be? Are you going to be an Irina and risk your life with direct action? Are you going to be a network supporter, a person who facilitates the Irinas of the world, but tries to stay back a bit so that you can, you know, spring Irina from jail if it's necessary? Are you going to be one of the people who gets caught in the concentration camps and tries to throw your baby over the fence out of desperation because we didn't fight back soon enough? Or are you going to be one of the joyfully oblivious people on the other side of the wall who pretends you don't see what's happening?
Yeah.
We're at that moment, folks.
Yeah.
I know I don't have to lecture the people who are here because y'all care. You care about learning. You care about people. That's what we do here is we care about learning and we care about people. I guess the point of today's episode is partly to praise Irina for what she did and to recognize Women's History Month, that women have a lot of fucking strength. But also, it's sort of a call to action. Not necessarily to share this video, though that would be appreciated, but to encourage others in your life who will never watch a video like this, who will never engage in the kind of self-exploration that the people who are here do, and push them just a little bit to inquire of themselves, what kind of person are they choosing to be? Thank you all so much for joining. As always, there's so much more to be said, but that is our time for today. And I think we've made the point quite sufficiently at this point. As always, thank you, Lil. I so much appreciate doing your mermaid thing here. And thank you all for being here for this. You folks are why we do the lives, as I often say, and I very, very much appreciate it. We can build a better world, even if it's just us. And as always, remember, you don't have to believe the propaganda of people who want to shoot people in the face, because you're better than regimes and cults and also religion. Toodles. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for February. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Maya Adkison, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Liliball Trades, Deviant Outcast, Secular Feelinist, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, Geo Sam, Thriver Scapegoat, The Godless Engineer, Why? Because Weed Bro, Katie Bluebird, and Fro from Norway. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now.